Most of you guys probably understand that in order to win wars in EU4, generally, you have to siege down the entire enemy country, including their capital. But today, we're going to be changing some stuff up, seeing how a game of EU4 looks when battles give much more war score, allowing nations to, at least in part, win wars via battle. This is at least a bit more realistic in my opinion, and I think most of you guys would probably agree. If you do, make sure you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell, and if you want to check out the mod, it is going to be linked in the description. Not a sponsor, but I've spent the last 6 months or so working very hard on an alternate history mod for EU4 called Post Phenom. It's going to be released on January 19th. I'm very excited for it, and if you want more information, join the Discord linked in the description. So this right here should be a pretty good example of the mod in action. They should be getting a large chunk of war score from that battle. In fact, I get an additional 300% war score from battles, which basically means that every battle that they win is going to be that much more useful. All of these men getting beaten up on the highlands over here, giving them a big chunk of war score, already up to 5. And a lot of people may not know this, but the maximum war score that you can get from battles in vanilla is 40%. But with this mod, you can actually get up to 60%, meaning you can basically occupy like a couple of border forts and beat the tar out of them in battle, and they'll be willing to peace out, which I think is reasonable. Honestly, I kind of like that change. And I don't know if this is necessarily like benefiting from the mod here, but we've got a Burgundian-French excommunication war in which massive casualties have been taking, almost 100,000 across the two like sides, which is insane, especially when you consider that Burgundy is like doing really good, and they are probably going to siege down Paris, which is just crazy. I feel like you don't see that very often. Here we go, the Venetian conquest of Athens down there. We have a bunch of battles that have gone on, 9 of them, but 20 war score, just 20 war score from 9 battles, which I guess wouldn't be super crazy, but when it's like calculated based on like the force limit of the entire nation, it means they probably got a stack wipe and it gave them like 12 war score or something like that. That's usually how it's calculated. Meanwhile, we have Brandenburg and Saxony going to war, and Brandenburg decided to call in his big daddy Poland. And yeah, it's going pretty well for them. Oh, Burgundy, you dirty dog. They just took basically every province that they could in like that excommunication wars. And lads, excommunication wars are super broken early on because they got to take it for half aggressive expansion, meaning they just probably picked up like 50 dev for literally like less than 50 AE, which is big early game. So this Burgundy absolutely making them meta plays. And like 2 years later, we have Paris being sieged down again, this time by the Pope, because the Pope has declared an excommunication war on France. So, okay. And I think it's probably safe to say that this is definitely a buff for the Ottomans because they have pretty good military stuff early on. Their pips are some of the best in the game, if I recall, at least in the early game. They've taken a lot of land over here. They definitely don't have any of this in 1444. They've also eaten up most of Byzantium, and they're probably going to annex some of this over here. I think they're allied and or a subject of Ramazan here, but I'm sure sooner rather than later we're going to see the Ottomans blob out, and they're definitely benefiting very early on from this buff. So yeah, the Pope took some land down here, not really super surprising, but then Orleans has declared independence from France with their friends of Castile and Aragon, and France is getting absolutely trounced for the 3rd time in like 10 years, and it is beautiful. It is beautiful to see. And also somewhere along the line, England attacked Alençon here because they had like a province or 2 over here, and then, or Armagnac, or however that's pronounced, and then they ended up taking Bordeaux and then releasing Alençon up here. So England being a dum-dum, I guess. Are you really that surprised though? It just keeps getting worse. They took a bunch of land from them, got independence, somehow gave up their capital though. And then Burgundy came in and took a bunch more land. And now France is Paris. They've moved their capital to this province over here. It's so bad. It's so bad. Meanwhile, Otto has pushed over into Crimea, getting a long front line with as many people as humanly possible. Timmy is not doing well, and Oirat is blobbing, annexing Mongolia as well as a bunch of land over here in Manchuria. So seeing a nice strong horde, always fun to see. Congo uniting the lands over here, and Kilwa uniting the lands over here. And the homies chilling out here in Abomey. my beloved. If you guys don't know, the homies are the boys who click the join button below the video and support the channel, get early access to all the videos on the channel and exclusive roles and chats in the Discord. So if that appeals to you, click that link, boy. We're only 30 years in, and it definitely does feel like people are being much more aggressive. Like Austria took all of this land from Venice, released Verona, and then annexed Ferrara as well. So it's just like, it feels like they're really, really blobbing hard. Like up in northern Germany, Cologne is just gone. Trier ate them, has very weird borders, and like Clave or Berg or whatever has taken more land over here as well. Lubeck is blobbed out from a 1 province minor to like 7. So I really don't know what's going on. Like this mod must make AI feel more aggressive. Meanwhile, the Mams have taken like 1 province from Syria, I think, a couple of provinces over here from some of the tribes of like the Bedouin tribes, and like this nation down here. And that's it. Like, I don't think they've really done a whole lot. They've taken like a couple of provinces down here, but the Mams are really like not being aggressive. And I think it's going to end up going poorly for them because they're going to get bopped. So after seeing Mushasha get like the Gulf of Mushasha a couple of videos ago, I'm definitely going to be rooting for them. I like Mushasha. They're also a feudal theocracy in vanilla, which is like just really cool. It's a rare government reform, so I'm happy to see it. About 50 years in, Austria has Hungary and Bohemia as personal unions, taking a big chunk out of Poland and losing a big chunk to the Ottomans. The Pope man continues his conquests, his manifest destiny, if you will, pushing all the way over into Bordeaux. Very funny to see. And then meanwhile, we have France here because Burgundy formed France, gave up all their lands to the lowland, and you're going to notice that they've got some land over here because Burgundy has a personal union over England. It's disgusting, and I hate it. This is not how the Angevin Empire is supposed to go. This is not it. It's the other way around. Uh-oh, we got separatists on the loose over in China. Meanwhile, Oirat is continuing to be a menace. I think they've taken quite a few provinces over here in northern China from the Ming. And it looks like they're pushing over into the other hordes as well. So we definitely have a strong Oirat on our hands, and I'm here for it. Also, somehow this happened. Muscovy getting pushed out of like Novgorod by the Danes. It's very weird. Normally Muscovy is at least somewhat powerful, but it looks like they've actually lost a few provinces to the Danes. So rip Muscovy. We're probably not going to see a Russia this time around, at least not for Muscovy at least. Aragon is still independent. And how about those borders? Good name placement. Nice little bit of like taking the coast, trying to basically cut off all these guys from raiding him. Just need to get Fizan. I'm pretty sure they can still do coastal raids. But yeah, good borders for Aragon for sure. Oh yeah, that is definitely a good example of this mod in action. 16 battles, 22 war score. And I think it's only going to get better considering the fact that the Ottomans are marching on Cairo. And all of their armies are either dead or just kind of running around aimlessly. So yeah, I think the Ottomans are definitely benefiting from this mod. Oh, is this what happens? Is this the Mamluks? Did the Mamluks become an Aeolate? Pretty sure that's what happened because I'm pretty sure they were here last time I looked. So that's pretty weird. Almost as weird as the Ottomans expanding very heavily up here in the north as well as over here. Doing pretty good, beating up on Austria, who's also very powerful in their own right with all of this land to themselves. Just north of Two Sicilies, who is formed. And I want to say Aragon lost a bunch of land to them, as well as Castile. So, no Iberian wedding. Also, you know, Viva Catalunya and all that. Beefy Genoa, looking very good. And then France over here, with a bit of a renaissance of their own, only this is a de Bourgogne, France. So, very cool. And they do have a loyal personal union of England, except for the Isle of Man, apparently broke free. Man is just independent, which is pretty cool. I like Man. Not like that, you know what I mean, the Isle of Man. As far as the colonial game goes, we've got Cape Verde going to the Portuguese, this stuff over here in Brazil going to the Spanish, and then all of this down here also going to the Portuguese, and that's really it. We have the Caribbean going to the Portuguese as usual, and Bermuda going to Castile, but aside from that, that is it. England will not take Expo expansion if they are a subject. They'll only take it first. If they don't take it before they get PU'd, then they won't take it. It's kind of a weird rule that the AI has, but that's the way that it works. So we won't see England colonizing, which is kind of sad. It basically means these guys are just going to have a hegemony. So with the Age of Reformation here, France is out in front, but just a little bit in front of the Ottomans. As soon as they embrace that institution, they're going to lose their #1 spot. Castile in the 3rd spot with Austria, with their personal union still in the 4th spot, which is kind of crazy to think. Muscovy still in the 5th, despite getting dumpstered by the Danes early on. Portugal in the 6th, with Oirat actually a great power in the 7th spot, and then Denmark in the 8th. So Quite an interesting lineup here. I don't think that that is very normal at all, but I'm here for it. I like it. Well, I'm going to have to eat my hat because Russia did form by the Muscovites, which is pretty cool. They're doing incredibly well. They just finished up cleaning up some borders over here, annexing a couple of breakaway states from Lithuania. Prussia has formed over here, and Austria has integrated their subjects and is doing fairly good, except for the fact that they don't own Austria anymore. So Two Sicilies is actually blobbing out, but France is definitely the star of the show, with the Netherlands forming and hanging out up here, but not just over here, because we've got good old Nova Hollandia over here, because despite England not being able to colonize, the Dutch are, and I am definitely a big fan of that. Spain has made their way over into Tejas, and then the Caribbean, as well as over here in Colombia, going to the Portuguese. And then the stuff over here continues to fill in, but the Spanish are now down in here because, yeah, the Spanish have formed. They're not Castile anymore. They're the Spanish. It's very different. They're also in the Cape of Good Hope with the Portuguese over here. And Oirat is basically everywhere over here, destroying China, ripping through the Ming, who I don't even think exists anymore, touching over here with Ashikaga, who's doing pretty well also, and yeah, just all around doing incredibly well, probably in one of the great powers of the world, definitely one of the great powers. Rip Scotland, a one province minor over here in Jutland, or however that's pronounced, but at least Iceland is here. That's pretty cool. Meanwhile, we have Denmark over here colonizing Greenland, so not all is lost on the colonial front. France is still the #1 great power, but of course, once the Ottomans embrace this institution, then they will get passed up. Spain is the 3rd, with Russia in the 4th, Portugal in the 5th, Two Sicilies in the 6th, which is really interesting to see. Austria in the 7th, and somehow, some way, Oirat way down there, but then you realize it's just because they haven't embraced the institution. They're actually like the #5 great power, which sounds about right, but I feel like they probably would have more development. I don't know if the AI actually raises. I don't know how that works. Now, I always want to say the Ottomans are like the super villain of this timeline, and in general, vanilla EU4, I would say they kind of are, but this time it has to be France. They've conquered like most of Germany, pushing all the way over into Prussia, and now they're just casually dumpstering the Ottomans, who are the other great power of the world next to them. In a mod where combat strength is that much more important in winning wars, it's not really a huge surprise that France would be able to be like the top dog. But man, this is really, really stark contrast to vanilla. Poor Netherlands barely even get off the ground and they get killed by the French as well. Feels bad, man. They even took all their New World colonies, splitting them with Spain. Sad. Which is a bummer because Spain already has plenty of land over here, splitting it with Portugal. With Portugal taking up most of this over here, and Spain's still working a little bit on Colombia. But they also decided that they wanted Northern Africa, I suppose. Meanwhile, Portugal is colonizing Australia and New Zealand. And Oirat continues their domination of the world over here. I don't know if they can form Yuan. I feel like they probably could. I don't know if the AI will hit the button. Either way, it'd be cool if they did. Japan is united, and for a second I saw blue. I was like, oh no, that's not way there's French. It's Korea. I'm being dumb. It's Korea. Korea has met land over here, but Japan's probably going to take it back. With 200 years left in the game, the Ottomans and the French are still neck and neck, as I said, but I think that the French are going to come out on top, especially if they take any sizable amount of land from them in this war. Spain is in the 3rd spot, but it's mostly just because of their colonial stuff. Russia is really the #3, probably right behind them, but Portugal as well, colonial stuff, not really that impressive. Two Sicilies doing pretty good, almost 1,000 development, very nice to see. With an Indian blob over in Delhi, you always got to get a good Indian blob. They are the 7th spot, and Oirat still in the 8th, but then again, if they were to embrace institution, they would be #3, right? So, poor Oirat, they cannot get those institutions. Now, revolutionary France, I think generally you can just expect it, but I don't know if I was necessarily expecting whatever this is, and whatever this is. Looks like the Mayhems broke free from the Ottomans, who are just a couple of provinces left, formed Egypt. Meanwhile, the Ottomans were getting gobbled up by Two Sicilies, and a couple of other people have broken free, like Pink Tabriz, which is a pretty rare tag. You don't see that in vanilla very often, so that's pretty cool. I also don't think we've ever seen an Iranshar, which is new in King of Kings. And the fact that it's like 2 or 3 provinces, 4 provinces, I don't know how that happened. Regardless, it's terrifying. Also, Portugal ended up gobbling up like Spain, splitting it with France, which is mildly hilarious considering the fact that Portugal is never a military nation, like ever, for the AI. Meanwhile, how about that Delhi blob? Always love to see a big Indian blob. Disappointed they haven't formed any nation like Hindustan. I feel like they should definitely form Hindustan. I don't know why they haven't. Meanwhile, Oirat is here, and it looks like they have definitely hurt Russia, but somehow Russia still managed to snake all the way over to the Pacific and get all of their eastern holdings. And then meanwhile, Korea splitting over here with Haichi, Yan, and even eating half of Japan, which is poetic. You know, if you're in the know, then that's pretty good. Delhi is also over here in the Spice Islands, as well as the Philippines, and Malacca is actually dominating over here, and they are very, very rich. All that trade node in this trade node. It's a very nice node. If you're not playing in Europe, you want to get in the Malacca node. Kiowa not feeling too good because Portugal is a militarist powerhouse and they have conquered a lot of their land. And France has taken basically all of the coast of Guinea. They're like the Croatia of South Africa. Speaking of the south of America, mostly Portuguese with a little bit of Spanish and like one French colony. And then the north is a bit of a mixed bag. We've got New Flanders over here with New Sweden, Nova Hollandia, which is a French colony, a lot of random Spanish ones over here, Russian California, which is pretty cool. And then we have Portuguese Cascadio and Alaska. So a nice bit of variety in the New World, maybe not as much as you normally would see, with France taking out England and then also Holland. But hey, we'll take a dub when we can get it. Oh, and I didn't realize that the Emperor of China is actually Oirat with a mandate in the toilet. But they do have it, which is pretty cool. And they've actually had it for a while, like a very, very long time, like almost 200 years. That's pretty cool. I feel like you don't normally see Oirat take the mandate. The Celestial Empire of Oirat. Very good. It's 1821, and I'm not going to lie, I did cheat. I clicked the button because they didn't form yuan, even though they could. I think the AI is just programmed not to because reasons, I guess. I don't know. You're just not allowed to have fun, I guess. Either way, Russia is very small up here. They actually were a tributary. Anybody, the keen-eyed among you, go back and see it if you need to, but they were a tributary of the yuan of the Oirat, I guess, at the time. Super funny. They somehow kept them loyal as well, and they're still a tributary. Okay. And of course, yes, Hindustan did form, looking very good with a Sicilian Levant over here, but not looking too good. We got a bunch of revolutionary tags that popped out of them. Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece. So that's pretty good. Of course, France continued to push eastward, getting all the way over into the Baltic states and like whatever this is, like Belarus, Pripyat area. So we also have Swedish Russia, Novgorod, Sapmi, and revolutionary Finland looking pretty good right next to, of course, a revolutionary Sweden. But lads, I think I'm afraid of this one. Revolutionary Iceland. Over in the New World, we have Labrador, which is funny. And then basically all the same ones we did before, but Hindustan has entered the picture over here. They have Hindustani Alaska Panhandle. Aside from that, that's all they really did. And then we've just got kind of the usual stuff over here. Nothing really changed in the last 80 years or so. But Spain, with their capital down here in sub-Saharan Africa, that's good. It's poetic, actually. Religiously, very Catholic. France did not allow the Anglican faith to spread. And it looks like they conquered everything and converted everything, except for this one little province right here, who is just reformed, I guess. So it is pretty cool to actually see an Orthodox Greece with everyone else being Catholic. Like Catholic Bulgaria is pretty funny when you think about it. Heck, Catholic Serbia is actually super funny when you think about it. A little bit of Sunni, a little bit of Hindu, a little bit of Sikh. But you know, the AI doesn't really do a whole lot of conversion whenever it's playing a Muslim nation in India. So lots of Hindu still, but not really any Hindu nations, just one down here in Orissa. All the Portuguese colonies are Catholic, as well as basically everything else in the New World outside of the Dutch colony, which was taken over by the French, which is reformed. Very nice to see some Orthodox in the New World, as well as some Protestant from the New Sweden. But aside from that, it's all Catholic. Culturally, the New World is very, very much Iberian. Not really a big surprise, but this is another one of those games where Platinian, which is the non-Brazilian culture, is dominant in Brazil, with the rest of it being Brazilian. Very funny. We do have a bit of Louisianian with our Burgundian culture over here. And then Flemish, because, you know, the Dutch were Flemish, apparently. Very good. Looks like a lot of the Finns were displaced by Novgorodians. And apparently Rhenish culture. That's it. It's just all Rhenish. Thank the French for that. Same with over here. It's all Serbian. Though it is pretty cool to see that Yuan had Sino-Altaic brought into the fold. So it's quite a big culture group. If I had to pick the largest, I would definitely say this one outside of the colonial ones, but those don't really count. So overall, does upping war score from battles increase the amount of chaos in a game? I would say so. Mostly just buffing the nations essentially that are good at combat. So would I say it's balanced? No. Would I say that it's definitely a buff for military nations? Yes. France, Yuan, who was this one before? Bharat? No, Delhi over here in India. Those nations are all very strong military nations, and it definitely shows. But I do appreciate you making it to the end of the video. If you did, make sure you leave a like. If you haven't already, subscribe and ding the bell so you get notified when these videos go up live every week. If you did make it all the way to the end of this video, I really got to say, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.
Special thanks to Kaiser Dar of Acadia, Sheol, Gammas23, Ian Powell, Cannon Fodder, Josh Kopczynski, Agent Rhino, Blonde Damon, Isaiah, Rover, Bubba J, Saronska, Ricardo, Cobalt, Rex, Nathan Albright, and many more.